is seamless and
Correct.
streamlined.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
So we've pretty much covered the bullets here. Now, can you think of any other issues that you've come across as the operations and development manager? Any other milestones that you had to overcome, or any other improvements that you've led, other than what we've already talked about?
I know.
I
I've
think
covered. I think I've covered a lot.
we've covered a lot. Okay, so we've also covered the steps you take to analyze and identify process issues, and then how you resolve and mitigate those issues, right? We've
Yep.
also discussed how you streamlined operations. So we've pretty much covered every single thing possible here, correct?
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of looking through it. I don't have anything else to add as it relates to what I've done here.
Okay, then shall we move on?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's move on.
Okay, so the
If I,
second.
you mind if I take like a 1 minute, 2 minute break? I need to go to the restroom real quick. Do you
Sure,
mind?
sure, sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Take your
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll give me 2 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that.
Issue at all. Okay, so let's dive into the second experience, which is delivery manager. Um,
So this
can
was
you
a
tell
promotion,
me?
as I mentioned.
Sorry,
Um,
yes, this was a promotion, and can you tell me the dates quickly? The starting month and year and ending month and year for this specific role.
oh man. Wow.
While you were development and operations manager, still a delivery manager as well. You said both of these roles were kind of combined as the operations manager, right?
Yes,
It
they
just added on to the responsibility, right?
exactly. Yep, yep. So
Okay, okay,
this happened, I think, maybe about 5 years back.
okay, okay.
Um, our promotion cycles
So,
were really like in April.
what were your?
And I was saying, you just
Mm-hmm.
say.
Okay.
So
Hello.
it's yeah. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. I can hear you.
Okay, so it's kind of the same thing that I was doing up. It's really just managing all of the delivery projects. But in this case, if you
What
think about
did that entail? Okay, go
um,
on.
so in essence, it's really just managing all of our delivery on our CBA application. It's the same one. This in this case was
Mm-hmm.
enterprise letter generation system. So any kind of development work that we did, aside from, outside of operations, because in this case I didn't have operations, it was just all development. Um, so in this case, the only difference here from the other project is that we used, or the first the DevOps manager role, is that the staff that I had was only, limited to developers, QE, quality engineers, and analysts. So that
Mm-hmm.
was like the 12 plus. Um, and then in this case, uh, enterprise letter generation system was really operating still under SDLC, the waterfall methodology.
Mm-hmm.
But I did have another oversight role on another project or another initiative that it basically was in support of this fulfillment capability.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay. And what was this document fulfillment capability?
what they called it was called the fulfillment hub.
Okay.
And what they ended up doing is they ended up creating a program. It was called Polaris,
Okay.
which is a huge initiative that basically was to consolidate multiple applications into one, and to streamline operations such that, there's two up one a single upstream application and a web service that will essentially take each of these applications and be that funnel, kind of a central hub, where it takes request in and it will send it to the correct fulfillment vendor, for like for ID cards and for correspondence, things like that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but essentially, it's a what they call the Polaris Fulfillment Hub. It was a enterprise strategic platform to deliver content to all of its constituents. And what that
Oh,
is, it's whether it's employers, employer groups, individual members, etc.
okay.
And
And you led this initiative.
yes, exactly. From a delivery standpoint. So, in other words, I had like a Scrum team, actually multiple
Mm-hmm.
Scrum teams that were working on this particular capability. But overall, I was kind of the oversight person, ensure that the delivery of it was a success.
Makes sense. Okay. So I think the second bullet is also related to this. It says that you implemented strategic fulfillment service capability that provided
Yep,
a standard method to communicate documents. You just talked about this, right?
exactly. That's what. And
Okay,
again,
got it.
there's some savings to it, but I don't have any hard numbers, after its implementation. Um,
But it did save costs in a general manner, to say,
Definitely.
right?
And it allowed the administration of new health plans, whereas
That's a
the
good
old systems,
point.
were not able to do it.
Okay, that's a good point. So you saved costs and you enabled these additional. Okay.
Now,
So,
now,
okay.
now,
Mhm.
now that was so in my role here, I was essentially now responsible for that one CBA application, enterprise letter generation system. But on top of
Mhm.
that, they also gave me, again, the accountability to ensure the delivery of this new fulfillment hub capability. Right now,
Mhm.
the two. So enterprise letter generation system, at some point, it was, again, like I mentioned, primarily waterfall methodology. They were using kind of the old stuff, but we're still delivering on projects, right? Based on business requirements, things of that nature, to be able to, you know, whether we're solving for compliancy related issues, um, and we're trying to just
Exactly.
implement new capabilities for the application, right? So think about
Mhm.
that. Then on the fulfillment hub capability, or my responsibility there, this is a completely different delivery method. So they were using Scrum Agile. And this is kind of where I was first introduced to this. And we ended up setting up, again, CI/CD processes, things of that nature, which I then leveraged to use to implement on my other role. You remember how we did the
Makes
transformation?
sense.
Yeah,
Exactly, yeah.
and that's why they selected me as that as that guinea pig to go through this transformation journey, because I had experience in doing this during this initiative that I had.
Makes sense. Okay.
I don't know how you can tie that in, but that's a point that I wanted to make sure that you captured.
I'll figure out a way. I'll probably include this as a center bullet in the beginning of your resume. So it's going to tie in from both of the roles.
Okay, good.
Okay, so
And then the rest of this stuff is kind of like what I mentioned before, right? So when we talk about $8 million, so these are same kind of software enhancements that we had to be able to, like, in this case, some of the things that were hot and sexy back then were like doing e-delivery capability
mhm,
to members, providers. Um, what else? Adding on new print trails um, for our clinical space. What I mean by the print trails is as new letters or new types of correspondence are developed because of a um, whether it's a reform issue, Medicare reform issue, Medical reform issue, or what have you, um,
mhm,
we have to we work with the businesses to be able to administer that, right?
mhm.
So within that, whether or not we have to develop new print trails to send out to the vendors, that kind of thing, it's all end to end. So those are pretty much a lot of the delivery work that we did was to, not only to be able to administer any kind of changes in template correspondence, and also then that's from letter generation to printing to archival.
Makes sense. Okay. So you said you were primarily overlooking two applications here, right?
Uh-huh.
And in a sense, that's the number of projects you led.
Well, number of projects for, I mean, you can say a project is, number of
Number of
things.
upgrades or migrations or
Oh,
enhancements.
you want the total number?
No, no, no. I'm asking you, okay, whether I should just break it down into saying that each specific upgrade, migration, database migration, or enhancement is
Mhm.
in itself a project, correct?
Yes, yes.
So if you have a guesstimate of how many projects you led here, that would be great. If you don't, it's okay.
Let me think. Wait a minute. I don't know. Maybe you can just estimate it like 12.
That's a good number. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So we've covered that. And what about timelines? How did you ensure that each product met the deadline?
Mm, well,
Because that ties into
on
delivery. So that's an
yeah
sorry, go on.
on the fulfillment capability, since that was being delivered through the Scrum process. Those were all outlined as part of our what they call product increments, PIs,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
so anything that deviates from that, we have to report why and how we're going to catch up. But really, it's those were all already pre-planned kind of dates, if you will. So
Okay.
and then on the other projects on the enterprise letter generation side, These are really just ensuring that the project managers are we're creating aggressive timelines, and we're reporting any kind of deviation to it as part of any kind of delays, whether it be associated with our upstream applications, our integrating partners, or our internal process. And I would be that person that would be the person to do the escalations. So if there's a blocker anywhere where I can be of help to try to relieve it, then I would be
Mm-hmm.
that person to be going to the go-to person to help remediate any blockers on timeline.
Okay, great. Hmm. So, were there any existing compliance issues here during this time as the delivery manager?
Um, yeah, yes, there were.
So, how did you mitigate those?
Oh, there was one where we had issues with meter date, right? With the meter date compliancy. So, do you remember how we talked originally when I talked about that those ESOP controls?
Yes. Okay.
Um, yeah, we had several instances where there were thousands of letters that were not being generated accordingly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so what we ended up doing was we ended up implementing a tool. Actually, this is not part of that. This is part of the DevOps world. This just came to mind. We ended up
Okay.
implementing a tool um, to monitor and to be able to identify our we call it the dashboard,
Mm-hmm.
to monitor intake and what was generated, the volume by print trail. So in essence, it's like that reconciliation, and then to be able to track meter dates um, and meter date turnaround times.
Okay. Got it.
But in this case, um,
Mm-hmm.
what was the question again? Oh, compliance issue. Okay, here. Oh, you're talking about implemented the CI/CD process, right?
Mm-hmm. I think we already talked about this right now, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We just talked about that.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing though is that you remember the one project was all um, Agile Scrum, and we were
Mm-hmm.
able to implement CI/CD processes is within that. The other application that I managed just continued to use their old stuff, and we did not leverage any of the information there, and up until the prior role that we were just talking about. Just to let you be aware.
Okay.
Um, okay, good, good. I think that covers it. Did you need anything else for that other bullet?
No, no, no. That's good enough. Thank you. Okay, so you functioned as a key contributor in the product technical roadmaps with a strong concentration on efficiencies and process improvement. So, how did you contribute to the IIT roadmaps, and in what ways did you lead process improvements? We've talked about a lot of process improvements already,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, we did.
So,
We did.
any other specific instance that comes to your mind?
No.
Okay.
As we
Okay,
talk,
so
and then something comes up, but the only one that did was that one that I just mentioned.
okay, and what about the IT roadmaps? Did you develop them from start to end? Did you contribute to what was your role during
Well, I
that time?
well I had an architect. I had an architect report
Okay.
to me. So based on collaboration between what we wanted to see the application do, like it's also a vendor product, so we also had to think about what we're going to do to upgrade it. In fact, before I got laid off, we're currently undergoing another. upgrade for it, but the architecture is totally new. It's that,
Okay.
and then thinking about, can we implement this application in cloud? So we looked at those possibilities, which in this case was not feasible because the vendor that we have does not have a. They do have a cloud-based application, but we have to migrate to a different product altogether, and that would take a lot more
Oh,
cost. Thing. So so I would be kind of that sounding board, and then really just taking a look at what we have, talking to the business in terms of how we want to integrate, um, going forward, and our architect. So,
okay, makes sense. And did you build any customer-facing relationships as the delivery manager?
oh yeah,
Did
definitely.
you?
uh With the vendor, um,
Okay.
yeah, with the vendor, with our business product owners, and also with our integrating application partners.
And were you able to increase satisfaction levels by improving the delivery by all
Yes,
of these things that you've done? Do you have
yes.
a figure for that?
Like what would that be? Like in terms of percentage, or?
Percentages in improve customer satisfaction by this percentage. If you have a
Oh,
ballpark figure.
I don't know. I would say maybe 10 to 15%, I guess.
Okay, that's good. Can you think of any other accomplishments or challenges that you faced as the delivery manager, or shall we move on?
I think we can move on. That's quite a bit. Yep.
Okay, so let's move on to the last one, which is release manager. And
hmm
this was from June 2006 till when exactly?
Uh,
Five.
I don't know. I was maybe 4 years on this one.
Okay, I'll figure it out. Okay. So, what were your main responsibilities as the release manager?
So the difference between the delivery manager and the release manager is really the release manager is really focused on making sure that the releases are being planned and that they're being um, grouped and aligned to maximize um,
So,
group.
developing the release management strategy and optimizing the
If you think about it, right, there's multiple projects that may deploy